Welcome to Apologetics Radio on KSDJ 90.7, your collegiate radio program at South Dakota State University, where we talk all things Christian apologetics. My name is Zach Winter, and there's no Micah Hunter here today. That's why I'm kind of taking the reins of the computer guy today. I'm here with the other co-host, Shiloh Smolinski.
Hi.
And we're excited. We have two guests. We're going to introduce them in a little bit because, Shiloh, you take it away with our little, what is apologetics?
Yeah, so we're a Christian apologetics podcast and club. So what is apologetics? It comes from the Greek word apologia, or to make a defense or reason to answer, and it refers to giving a reasonable defense to the Christian faith. And a Bible verse that ties that in perfectly is from 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 5. For though we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every captive thought captive to obey Christ.
I threw that verse in here today. Usually we do 1 Peter 3:15 and 16. But that one I like better for today because we're going to be talking kind of about that spiritual warfare and that battle that we do face as Christians. But before we get into the topic, let's introduce our two guests today. So who's first? Let's start with Elise.
Hi guys, my name is Elise Friedrich. I'm a student here at SDSU, and I've been a part of this apologetics group for a little over a month now. And I'm excited to be here.
And hi, my name is Jesus Lightfoot. I am also a student here at SDSU, and I've known Reasons for a really long time. But now I'm actually getting into the trenches with them.
So welcome, Jesus and Elise. With that being said, let's get into the topic. So today we're going to talk about essentially the spiritual realm of the Bible and what it means for us as just people who are alive in this world. So I want to start with a Gavin Ortland quote. Gavin Ortland is a popular internet apologist. He's also a pastor. He's a very well-researched guy. He's got, a doctorate or a master. I think it's a doctorate in historical Christianity. But here's his quote. We need to be more open to the possibility that the spiritual realm of the Bible is more textured and nuanced and complicated than our flattened modern categories can allow. The Bible is strange and supernatural. Let's allow it to pull us into the strangeness. So, that being said, let's talk about the spiritual realm. So, that involving demons, angels, and what your place is in that picture. What are you going to do about the presence of these beings, we'll call them? So, let's start. I have 3 points to start with. Number 1, they exist.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, they're active. Number 3, they are powerful. So let's get into that first point a little bit. They exist. Let's first take it from a biblical perspective. So Ephesians 6:12 states, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Genesis 3:1, another example. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast in the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God actually say, 'You shall not eat of any tree in the garden'?" Now that's 2 examples. You can find many, many, many more in the Bible. But clearly, the authors who wrote these books of the Bible thought that demons existed. And number 2, they're doing stuff. That gets to our second point. They were active. Here's a couple more examples using the Bible to prove that they were active points. This comes from Daniel 10:13. The prince of the kingdom of Persia, that's underlined there, that's an important term there. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was there with the kings of Persia. That prince of the kingdom of Persia essentially is like a fallen angel or a demon in that case. And he's actively rebelling or resisting another angel who's being sent from God in that example. And then Ezekiel 28:11-19, another example. I won't read this one out because it's a bit long. but it starts as a lament to the king of Tyre. And the king of Tyre, meaning the person who's ruling over the city of Tyre, is very, very, very clearly, I would say, at least it's alluded to that this is the serpent from the fall, from Genesis 3. That's in the Garden of Eden. This king of Tyre, being the devil, the serpent, is actively ruling over a city and is in a state that he has dominion over that place. And lastly, number 3, they were powerful. We see kind of 3 main characteristics when we look at demons in the Bible. Those are our superhuman abilities, prophecy, and essentially what's compared to like magic. So Acts 19 and Luke, we see 2 examples of superhuman abilities. One that I can remember off the top of my head is Luke. So in Luke, there's a demon, or multiple demons named Legion, and they take possession of a man. And it's stated that he's broken out of his captivity multiple times. And when you have somebody in captivity, they're often in chains, and they're bound, and they're tied together. And it's stated that he's broken out of these chains multiple times. That's not something that normal people can do. So we see something is giving him the ability to do that. That would be the demon that's possessing him in that case. For prophecy, Acts 16:16, we see the story of a slave girl who is essentially prophesying for people and working as like a fortune teller for her slave owners, and they're making a profit because she's correct. She's telling correct prophecy by the work of a demon that's possessing her. And lastly, magic. This is probably the most interesting case, and I'll expand upon that later. But Exodus 7 is the story of the staffs that turn into serpents. So Moses, when he's going to Pharaoh in Egypt, God commands him to take a staff, put it down, and it will turn into a snake. And he does that. Of course, it happens. But what do the magicians respond with from Egypt? Well, they actually do the same thing. They take their staffs, they put them on the ground, and they also turn into serpents. That's kind of a big deal. It's not, the Bible's not saying that they pulled a magic trick and they pulled the snake out of their pocket and then hid the staff. No, they're saying the staff turned into a serpent. And of course, in that moment, God still exercises authority over that power by having his serpent beat the other 2 serpents. But that is the important detail there, that it did actually happen. That is magic. Like, that's that quotation marks for magic that's happening. So that's the Bible. Using the Bible to kind of proof text these 3 examples. So what does that look like today? And this is kind of getting to my claim. My claim is that they exist in the stories. With that being said, I'll push you on a cliffhanger, because we're going to go to our first break. So we've covered the Bible, and they're kind of examples, proof texts for the existence of demons. Think about, what do you think they're doing now, essentially? And with that being said, we're going to listen to At the Cross by Chris Tomlin.
Hi, welcome back to Apologetics on KSDJ 90.7. My name is Jesus Lightfoot, and I just wanted to kick off this discussion talking about the 3 points that were brought up when it comes to demons themselves. One of the things that you begin to learn really quickly when it comes to demons, angels, the entire subject is that they are mysterious in nature. As the common meme goes, the biblically accurate angels are these figures of immense quality, things beyond our understanding. And so it's no wonder that people, when they meet them, they have to be like, don't be afraid. But I think, the other things that we see surrounding angels is the fact that, superhuman abilities, prophecy, magic, these are things that exist within the ballpark of these beings, as they are far beyond what we generally perceive. One of the things that one of the verses that came up in mind was actually when in Scripture. So I've heard the archangel, I believe Gabriel or Michael, and Satan fighting over fighting over Moses's body. this is one of those stories that, though it's surrounded by a lot of mystery, and we may often not know a lot about it. I think it is one of those things that we don't just necessarily say, "Oh, let's give no credence to it." And I think one of the ones that I mainly want to touch on is this idea of magic. I call back to Paul when he was being pestered by a woman who was possessed by a fortune telling spirit. This thing was constantly saying, that what is this? This is the messenger of God, and doing this constantly. And he finally decides to cast the demon out. But what was the other thing that we can notice about this? Well, this thing was fortune telling, and we don't know whether or not that was necessarily true or false. But what we do know is that this may inspire some form of worship or religion, that this may ensnare people in their minds and thoughts. And while there may not necessarily be demons present in those things, the influence may certainly be there as to try and hook people into not going into proper ways of life. Whether or not that's doing tarot cards or trying to do fortune readings or going to see mediums. These are very real and present things, and demons may in fact take place through them because there may be people who will look for exactly that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point you make. You're kind of leading right into the second half of this perfectly, because essentially what I would say is the demons didn't go away, but they work differently now. Their plans have changed in a sense, because now you do see those stories, as I call them, like the tarot cards, the Ouija boards, the weird things in the world, the weird encounters that people have. They have the feeling of dread over them. Stuff like that is super, super important to this conversation, because that's what they're doing now. They're not running willy-nilly now, possessing people all the time. I have a quote from Vincent Lambert. He's an exorcist for the Roman Catholic Church out of Indianapolis, I believe. He actually has a quote saying that out of all the cases that he has of people that come to him for help, he says about 1 in 5,000 are actual legitimate demon possession. And he says that because he's saying something's changing, something's different. They're working in different ways, what I would say. You might have to get into some more examples of that.
I think, well, I mean, when I see the things that talk about like the realistic or like the the quote unquote real story or based on real stories, I mean, you had what was the pair that was going around? They inspired the Conjuring series. You never seen the Conjuring movies?
No, I have not watched the Conjuring
well,
movies.
Point is the people who that was based upon were real people. These were people who were, I think, self-proclaimed demonologists, and essentially worked around the country trying to determine whether or not there were really, like, spiritual activities happening in certain places. And I think that, I have a certain amount of skepticism, as anyone should, but I don't think that that's necessarily out of the question. And like when we have the situation of like the guy who was possessed, bound in chains, going to these specific places and doing bad things to himself, harming himself. These are factors that we may look over, maybe dismiss it as, but nothing but mental health, things of the like, which it very well could be. But I think if we're, discrediting all of it, then we eliminate the very real threat. Like you said, they're real. This is a real occurrence, and though many of the stories may be false, though they may not be true, that doesn't necessarily discredit the fact that these things could be very much working and doing real harm.
Yeah, an ideology that's like kind of my ideology, but I think it's smart to be a skeptic in these is take 100 stories, take a sample set of 100 stories. You go to Reddit or something and you find just 100 of them. Take 95 of those 100, just throw them out. Assume they're completely fake. As you said, like, be a skeptic.
Yeah.
What does that mean? You got there. That means 5 of them were real, and that's a big deal. Don't let that go over your head, because that is a big deal. That's why I opened the presentation with the Gavin Orton quote of, let your mind invite in the weirdness and the strangeness, because you have to. We live in a very materialistic world. Don't be deceived by that. C.S. Lewis states that the demons basically have 2 goals, or the 2 successful plans that the demons can have is, number 1, you make them forget that they even exist. Number 2 is that you fall in love with them. But this point that you're bringing up now would be that first point of forget they even exist. Because if you forget they exist, now they get to do whatever they want, and you will never notice because you're not even thinking about them.
Something to add to that, I think that there's a very big importance of believing of the supernatural world and the spiritual world, of having the belief that you can't have no belief in demons and then belief in miracles, because they are essentially one and the same, and they are just spawned out of, either good or bad. And it's like, you can't believe that God or angels or Jesus did something really big and important in your own personal life, or they healed someone of cancer, and then have the same disbelief in demons and the things that they are able to accomplish.
Well, I mean, to tack onto that, I mean, think about this. The verse that says, like, be sober minded, for your enemy the devil roams around like a roaring lion, seeking for someone to devour. That's not a oh yeah, in the beginning of the church that was a very real thing. No, this is a very real thing right now. That's not, oh, almost 2,000 years have passed, you're good. No, that's be sober minded. This your work is not idle, and your work is certainly not in vain as well.
Yeah. Ephesians 6:12 is the first verse I read today. It's about being engaged in this battle against principalities and demons and stuff. Right after that is the armor of God. And to harken back to the point you're saying of, like, be prepared, be ready. Paul's writing this to highlight that point of, you have to be ready, prepare yourself, put on the armor of God to fight the war that is actually happening. Yep. Be ready to fight the war, because it's happening, regardless of whether you think so or not. I want to expand on something you two have brought up, though. The idea of what do they do now, right? Yeah. It's not possession, it's something else. I have a guy named Benjamin Garrett. I read one of his books. He's a pretty cool guy. He is a pastor, I believe. Yes, he's the pastor. And he hosts a podcast called The Haunted Cosmos. And I have 2 quotes from him. And this is getting into the little bit of conspiracy theory, I know, but I think it's good to get into some of this stuff. Abduction stories are laced through and through with aliens convincing their subjects of a single cosmic religion of love and peace, stealing the seed of man in order to help create a hybrid species of demigod that will spring-load man's next evolutionary step, using people as sex objects for experimentation, and leading people down the path of utter hatred towards Christianity, in contrast to a learned amiability towards every other religion. What does that sound like? Question for the peanut gallery, the people that are listening. I'll answer it. It sounds like demons, right? Those qualities are there. They exist. If the story is to be true, 5 out of the 100 are true. In those 5 stories, they exist. Big point. Are they doing stuff? It seems to be the case that they're teaching a message. They're doing stuff. They're trying to portray an ideology in the people that they would be, quotation marks, abducting. And then lastly, are they powerful? Well, what do we see in the stories of alien encounters? It's like magic, right? It's like supreme intellectual capacity beyond the human recognition. It's essentially magic, like science magic is kind of the way to call it.
I think it was an old quote that I heard that was like, an advanced form, like, don't quote me on this as I'm quoting, but it's something along the lines of any, high level enough science is indistinguishable from magic. I mean, think about that for a moment. Some of the, amazing things that would have, been considered, whoa, what is this? Or things that would have been unheard of or unthought of are part of normal culture today. You want a flamethrower? We got you, right? And people can do that. And not because of any form of magic, but because our science has advanced that far. So now that magic is no longer in the scene, what's the next step for us as a more clinical culture? It's probably going to be some greater form of technology that would be out of our scope of thought.
Something to add to the aliens and abduction story. I think that there's so much confusion, and people hear this idea of aliens and they look in the sky and they see other planets and they wonder if people are up there. And so then it just makes it something more firm to grasp onto rather than this like, oh, demons, those seem scary. I don't know what's happening. So then they latch on to this, oh, it was just aliens. Like the aliens did this to me or they made me do this. And it is sort of an ease of mind for them.
It's a problem with the materialistic world that we do live in, the materialistic culture that we live in. It's so implanted in our brains that everything must be tangible and real, that when you get these weird stories, as you're talking about, you get these just weird things that happen, people have to explain them using their materialistic mind, because that's the only thing they've known ever to do. This is a quote from I don't know who, but it's like medieval thought quote. The universe is singing a song, and the only reason why you can't hear it is because you've only heard it your entire life. We as people, when we try to make things make sense in our materialistic brains, fail, because things don't make materialistic sense. It's probably the whole point of the using this as an apologetic, this being an apologetic show, is to harken back to that. It's weird. Let it be weird. Let that weirdness point you to God. Like, there's something more in this world than just things. The world is not just stuff.
So there's a verse in Leviticus, I want to say 22:22 or maybe 29:29, that actually says about how God will reveal what we're allowed to know at the time that we're allowed to know it, and the rest of it is hidden for him. And so there are definitely things that we don't get to explain, but there's so much that is explained and that is proven and that is given by him for us to use. And so I guess it's just important to like take the knowledge that we have and then use it wisely and not deal with all the hypotheticals and all the things that we can't understand and be wondering why we can't understand it and like making up new things trying to decipher it, because there are some things we don't get to know. But if you just take what you do know and you study it well and you use it against things of this world, then things like demons aren't so scary. And you put on the armor of God and you can work against them.
This is from Proverbs. The glory of God is to hide things, and the glory of man is to seek them out. Diddling off of your point being, it's not just like, put your hands back and say, I don't know if God wanted me to know, he would show it to me. It's God hides things, but he makes it so it's possible to find out. Of course, you need his wisdom to be able to do that. And that's kind of the guidelines there of how do you engage with like the alien stories or the demonic possessions, and do so in a way that is wise and not fearful of the stories or fearful of the demons, but fearful of the Lord. True wisdom. And that's how you'll actually be able to seek these things out and have glory, as the authors of Haunted Cosmos would put it.
I think like one of the things behind it is that this, comes back to the, problem of like humanity and sin, is that humanity will probably find every excuse it can not to seek God in all things. If we find some phenomena that doesn't make sense, we may try to, sinful humanity will probably try to reason to say, oh, well, Big Bang, or try to find any focus upon the universe itself, the created thing, rather than the supernatural, amazing God who actually did create it all. And like I think that's one of the problems with Aliens too, is that man may place such a focus, and also, to ring back to one of the old like things of like Gnostic gospels and stuff like that. This idea of knowledge, hidden knowledge. We've elevated that so high. I mean, it's a little bit of a side tangent, but like it's been elevated so far as to think that that's the great thing, as if that's all. And that may be one of the things. Maybe that's one of the aims of said demons, should they be aliens, right?
You've gotten to a very awesome point. I'm going to take the mic again. You're getting into something that Benjamin Garrett would call the banality of demons. Gnosticism, for those who don't know anything about it, is essentially around the 2nd century, early Christianity, was an idea that the world's just about knowledge, Gnosticism, right? And the way to actually achieve salvation is just that you have to know the secret knowledge. You have to know the things, and then you're going to be saved. It's very similar to like Buddhism and Hinduism thought, those kind of ideologies. That's, of course, a little different. To say it's the exact same would be an oversimplification. But banality of demons is another quote from Benjamin Garrett. How come the aliens that abduct people do all the same things to their victims that the satanic child-abusing cults do to theirs? The same things that the demons said back then are the same things that they say now. They can't actually create new ideas, new stories, because they're not creators. The only creator is God, right? That's an important detail. I'm so happy you brought it up, because it's probably one of my favorite points of learning from actually studying some of this stuff in the past 2-3 weeks or so. But the stories are the same. The Gnosticism is still there. You go read some of these stories. You'll find it. The Gnosticism, those Gnostic ideas, that secret knowledge, it's still there. It's not gone.
You should finish off that quote. I really like it.
Okay, I'll finish off this quote, because this quote is actually awesome. So, how come the aliens that abduct people do all the same things to their victims that the satanic child-abusing cults do to theirs? And this is continuing on from where I left off. Why does modern transgenderism look an awful lot like ancient genital mutilation, just in an antiseptic surgical theater instead of a mud hut? Why do women who revel in the last sacrament of a modern abortion sound so similar to the ancient high priests and priestesses of Moloch and Asheran? Why does every culture have its Bigfoot, its Mothman, its werewolf, its fairy, its little folk, its God seeking human women to make a race of demigods? When you boil them down to their essence, why do all these things seem to be the same thing? It's because that's what they are. Yeah, it's a really awesome quote. I'm glad you made me read the whole thing.
Truth nuke.
But even expanding upon like his last half of that quote, why does every culture have its Bigfoot, its Mothman, its fairies, its mythology? What if it is just because they're all telling something that is true? Like, wouldn't that be crazy to talk about? Wouldn't it be crazy that Greek mythology and Norse mythology and Egyptian mythology don't just exist because they're figments of imagination? What if it's just actually there was real things happening?
They have a little bit of the truth.
Yeah, they do. They have that little bit of knowledge about the truth that demons exist. They might not call them demons. They may call them the sun god Ra, right? And we get that side of the story a little bit from the Bible, because, of course, the Israelites were in Egypt in slavery, and with the story of Exodus 7 and the serpents, the staff string and the serpents. Who are they doing that? They're probably calling on the name of Ra, right? The sun god. It's like, come on, Ra, help us out here. This guy is doing stuff. We need to show him that we're powerful too.
Well, one of the things that I brought up when we actually did the reasons over like last Thursday was this idea that Satan, and I wouldn't even doubt that the angel or that the demons are like this as well. Cunning. More cunning than you would know. And so to shift it from to shift it from these ancient beings of or these little god figures, and shifting it to say, what about aliens? It makes more sense for American society, does it not?
It does.
We're clinical. That's the problem. We're clinical. We're technologically advanced. If we were looking at it from a top-down view, that's what America is. We focus so harshly on science that it would make. I mean, if you were thinking of it in a purely tactical sense, playing devil's advocate for a moment, if one was Satan, it would only make sense to use that. You would be using every tool at your disposal. So why wouldn't you use aliens as the method, as the thing to convince humanity there's things beyond the stars? Well, it would make sense to a modern person, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we've harkened to this a few times, but there is a war happening. And they're not just like fighting for the sake of fighting. They're fighting because they want to win. They're going to have strategy. They're going to be cunning, as you said. They're going to be smart. They're going to plan. Be ready for that, in a sense.
I think this quote, this that you just read, is so eye-opening for what demons are doing today. Because, like you said, they're not like doing these full-body possessions, running around crazy, screaming naked down the streets. Like we don't see that anymore. We don't have any real, like there's not like these, like the outcast of society, like, oh yeah, he's got a demon, we just don't talk to him kind of thing. But what we do see are these satanic cults and this transgenderism and the abortions, and everything is so worshipped and glorified. And like like you said earlier, Jesus, about the mental health being like self-harm and suicide, and like that is very much modern day like demons, and that's their target, because they had to scale it back so that it was, I want to say, less crazy, a little more cunning. They had to read the room a little bit and see like, oh, we can't just go in like a legion of, we can't just attack this one individual person. But if we spread out a little bit and we give all of these different people these ideas, and we make it so it's like, oh, an abortion sounds really good to this struggling mom, or, oh, well, you hate yourself, maybe you should try a different gender. That's so much easier to grasp as a person, that the demons know that and they see that.
Yeah. I'll maybe, Jesus, you take it away.
Well, like one of the things that I like, and I just kind of thought of this, but like this actually rings out really well. More than a singular attack on a single person, think about this for a moment. How much would a mindset, theology, something that everyone can believe, how much more is that going to have ground with everyone? We may have seen it with Egypt, with the Celts, with these people who believed in different religions. It was a lifestyle. It was a belief system. It was a thing that could sway anyone who may have been looking for any way to improve or better their life. And that may be the same lie that gets sold to people through any other means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To use the like funny quote me and Mike always tell each other, everybody is religious. It's just whether or not they want to call themselves religious or not.
I think that's from Jordan Peterson.
Oh, is it from?
I was gonna say, I think
Is it from
that's
Jordan Peterson?
Peterson's.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, there you
think
go.
that's his
I ripped
logic.
it from Micah, so he ripped it from Jordan Peterson. But with that being said, I think we're going to go to our second break. So I have an old favorite. This one's for Micah. We're going to listen to Oceans by Hillsong United. Hope you guys enjoy. Welcome back to Apologetics Radio. My name is Zach Winter, and I'm here with my two guests and Shyla, my other co-hosts. So Shyla, Jesus, and Elise. And we've talked a lot, but we've talked about demons, essentially, in the spiritual realm, materialism, and why it's important to get out of that worldview and just like embrace the fact that there's more to this world than just stuff. Like Shyla's really liking what I'm saying right now. He's giving me the nods of approval and everything. But with that being said,
It's a bar.
Shyla's being a goofball right now. With that being said, we did say we were going to talk about a little bit more than just demons. So hopefully we've scared you enough talking about them. But we want to kind of transition to talking about angels right now. So, angels. What are they?
Well, I like Jesus's point about the meme, you know, with he's a scary picture and he's got all these eyes and all these hands and all these wings, and it's kind of startling. But I think that the bigger message is that they are servants of the Lord, and they are here to protect us, and they are here to help us, and they are essentially God's helpers, and they do that because they love us and they love him and they fear him.
The best biblical example of this is in 2 Kings. This is 2 Kings 6:15. And man, do I love this story. I'm probably going to talk more about it after. But when the servant of the man of God, and that's Elisha, just a heads up. So when I lied. It's the servant of Elisha. So when the servant of Elisha rose early in the morning and went out, behold, an army with horses and chariots was all around the city. And the servant said, Alas, my master, what shall we do? Now, this is Elisha responding. Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Then Elisha prayed and said, O Lord, please open his eyes so that he may see. So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. What we see there is the servant of Elisha is terrified because there's an army at their doorstep. They're in a city, and there's city walls, but there's an army outside the city walls. And Elisha's just peaceful. Elisha's chilling because Elisha realizes the truth of the situation, and he prays, and we see this picture of the servant's eyes being open, and he sees the angels. He sees the chariots of fire and the army that was prepared to be there at their defense too. So angels are servants, and God has sent them to help us. He does. But there's an important point there of they are still the Lord's servants, right? Not your servant. Not your pet is kind of what I'm trying to say. Don't get yourself into a bad situation and be like, oh, angel, come save me. That's the worst mentality you can have when it comes to the angels. But don't put it past them. That's the way I want to say that is they're not your pet. Don't put yourself in a situation to be saved, but don't put it past them to save you regardless. That's big time apologetics, just because in apologetics, you're out and you're defending your faith or you're evangelizing. I should have written this story down, but I'm going to tell it off rip now. There's a pastor and his wife, and they were missionaries, not necessarily pastors, but they were missionaries, and they went to an island full of cannibals. And he's there, he had a house, and he was just evangelizing with these people. Eventually got to the point that the chief of the tribe essentially got tired of them. The people there got tired of them, and they essentially had a war party, and they were going to come eat them, essentially. And the missionary and his wife were in their house all night. They just prayed and prayed and prayed, and nothing happened. But a year later, the chief of the tribe actually does convert to Christianity. And in a conversation with the tribe leader, the missionary asks him, like, why didn't you come murder us? Like, we thought you were coming. And the chief responds with, oh, yeah, we were. We were outside your house and everything, and we had the fires and the pitchforks, yada, yada. But they didn't because there was hundreds of men standing guard outside the house. And that's why they didn't fulfill their plan. That's angels. Like, that's what's happening in that situation. God sent his servants to protect those he loves, or that loves him. Either way is correct.
That's so tough.
But I want to move on to a quick fourth point about demons. I know I said I was going to not talk about demons anymore, but this is supposed to be a comforting point. Couple truths we have to say though. Number one, the demons do a lot of stuff, but ultimately we know that God works all things for those who love him. In all things, God is working for you, O Christian, who loves him. So the demons do stuff. How can we not be afraid of that? It's because the demons are losers, right? I do it to be funny. But it's also just true. The first prophecy in the Bible, I believe this is the first prophecy. It's Genesis 3:15. This is right after the fall, and it's when God is cursing the serpent, which is a demon, typically thought of. This is Genesis 3:15. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. What does that prophecy mean? It means right from the get-go, the serpent knew the plan. He knew that he was going to bruise the man's heel, but man will bruise his head. Man will win. God will win. Demons will lose. But he has to essentially fight this battle until the end of time, knowing he's going to lose. So the demons are losers. Be comforted in that fact. They will lose.
I think to add to that, they have lost and they know it, but they're just going to keep fighting.
Yeah. The other example, sorry, I'm going to interrupt again. The death of Jesus Christ. What a monumental moment in history it was, and how insanely important for the Christian. I mean, it's the foundation of our entire faith, our entire belief. Because if Jesus didn't die on the cross and rise from the dead, everything doesn't mean anything anymore for us. But the reason why I say this is, why did the demons, essentially, why were the demons working for it? Why were the demons trying to kill Jesus? It's because they thought they were going to win, right? Otherwise, why would they do it? But in God's immeasurable wisdom compared to the demons, he's so good and he's so wise when it comes to them. That's actually what his plan was in the first place, right, Elise? I mean,
Right.
why would the demons kill Jesus knowing that it's actually the fulfillment of the plan? It's because they didn't know. They were too stupid to know that.
I got a interesting verse here. Hebrews 2, starting at verse 14. Since therefore the children share in the flesh and blood, he himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery. For surely it is not angels that he helps, but he helps the offspring of Abraham.
And I'll quote Aslan from the Chronicles of Narnia. Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch, for I was there when it was written. Right? God had a plan, and in a sense, he used the demons to fulfill his plan. The demons are still his servants as well, even though they don't like it.
That's such a good point.
Moving on, the last point we will make is, what about you? Now, you're not an angel. You're not a demon. You're a human. You are mankind. What can you do to be prepared to be in this world where angels and demons exist? Number one, you gotta fear the Lord. You gotta fear the one that the demons fear. Proverbs 14:26. In the fear of the Lord, one has strong confidence, and his children will have a refuge. The fear of the Lord is a foundation of life. And pay attention to this last part here. In the fear of the Lord, one may turn away from the snares of death. Who's setting the snares of death? The demons. The demons are the ones putting out these traps for you. Fear the Lord, and he will guide you. Steer clear from those snares. Number two, don't fall in love with the stories. We've talked a lot about demons today. None of us are in love with the stories. I don't know anything compared to the Reddit conspiracy theorists on the internet, but I know a little bit. But I know that there's a point to have the stories for. Don't fall in love with them. And this is going back to the C.S. Lewis quote I said earlier. You either forget they exist, that's the one error, that's the materialistic error, or number two, you become so infatuated with them that that's all you think about. That's also you, O Christian, or you, O person that's listening to this podcast. Don't fall into that bargain bin either, because it's equally as dangerous.
I was going to say, use your knowledge of them and get more knowledge, because like when missionaries go out or you go out and you talk to someone that has a different belief system or a different faith idea, use your knowledge of demons to know what you're fighting against, because you can't do as much as you can to fight against them if you don't even know what they are. If you don't know what they're doing in your own life, you won't know how to stop them.
And I think that there's like this concept, like I brought this up in the past before. There's the group of people who is like, and there are a spiritual realm of which you cannot see, of which things take place, which influence the thing. Yeah, that's sure, that may be true, but also we may be focusing a little too much on that.
Yeah.
And that's the obsession. I think the obsession is a little, it can get a little much.
Yeah. You two have perfectly led me into the third point, which is don't fear the stories, like we've just said, but actually use them. At least you're saying that in the sense of being an evangelist, being an apologist, defending your belief. Use the stories. They do exist. The demons exist. They're doing stuff. Don't fear them. Use the stories. Talk about the weird things that happen. Talk about the alien abduction. Like, isn't it weird that the message that he's teaching is the exact same message that has been taught for all of history? Maybe it's Gnosticism. Maybe it's child sacrifice. Yada, yada, yada. Insert bad thing here. There's probably a story that exists in modernity that tells the same thing. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to use a story as a teaching moment for somebody. I'm going to try to quote this. This is again from Benjamin Garrett. But sometimes people need to hear a scary story. Sometimes people need to be scared. It sobers the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, if you're aware of the demons, Jesus himself tells us that we can exorcise demons. You can't exorcise a demon that you don't know is there. So being
Yeah.
aware of those things is also super important. Like demons in your house, demons in yourself, or in a friend, a buddy. You have the power over the demon in Jesus' name.
And the last point is just prepare. What do I mean by that? Jesus, what did you bring up earlier?
The devil is like a roaring lion seeking for someone to devour. So be ready. Be sober-minded.
Be sober-minded.
And put on the whole armor of God.
Yes. Yes and amen. Put on the armor of God. Ephesians 6:12, first verse we read today. I'm going to start this section by reading 13 through 18. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, and with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit, with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints. You got to prepare, because there is a war happening, and it's going to keep happening regardless of whether you're ready for it or not. I would highly advise you to be ready for it, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, that takes us to our final 30 seconds of the podcast. So we always have our challenge of the week, and it appears Shiloh's got something brewing in his head.
Oh, no, I actually don't, but I don't know, maybe I do. If, let's say, for this next week, if you notice something going on in the world, let's just say, for instance, like the Jeffrey Dahmer stuff, I'm fully convinced that's demons. They are on a path of sin that is too dark for us. Pray about it. Pray about something like the Jeffrey Dahmer case, or pray about a friend who could be just as little as influenced by a demon. Acknowledge it, see it, and pray about it.
Yeah. I'll even add a little bit more. Pray about it, and pray specifically for God to help you understand what's happening. Ask for that. Don't be afraid of the story, but think about it.
Mm-hmm.
See the story, see the weirdness that's happening all around in our life, and just let it speak. Let it battle against your materialistic mind that you probably have if you live in modern America. And just let God speak. Any other last words? Yeah. I can pray us out, and then I'll let you guys go. So, Father God, we thank you for the opportunity and the place to actually talk about these things. We don't want to take that for granted. We know how much of a gift it is. But Lord, we have these weird things that happen in our world that exist. And as I just said with Shiloh for the challenge this week, we pray that you will allow us to see the greater truths of this world. It's your glory to hide things, and you've given us the opportunity to get glory by seeking them out. Help us to seek out those things. Help us to engage with the world around us in the way that it truly is, and help us not to be led astray by these powers and these principalities that are at war against us. Remind us that we have warriors on our side as well. Lord, it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys for listening, and we are going to send you off with Reliant K, one of my favorites, Sadie Hawkins Dance. Thank you guys for listening.